I love documentaries because I'm just kind of like a big nerd. And like, I feel like with documentaries, you can learn so much. And I get so excited. Like, the feeling that I get watching a documentary is like really awesome because I always go through like the same feeling. Like, I'll start watching it and I'm like, oh, this is cool. And then it starts getting more and more interesting. And I start freaking out inside because I'm like, this is amazing. I need to go research this. And usually, every time I finish watching one, I'll go and like spend like 2 hours in the internet, like just Googling random things. And then I have to tell everybody, like, oh, I saw this. I just love the feeling of just watching something that can teach you something new. And I think that I'm the kind of person that always loved like the idea of just constantly educating yourself. And I love that a documentary essentially can be almost like reading a book, but like in a more fun way.
The first thing I wrote, I was in an enrichment group in my elementary school that a parent ran, and they were like, oh, who wants to do some writing? And they gave us an assignment, and they were like, write about a season. And I wrote a poem that was like called, Why Are You Disappointed as Winter? And like the words on the page were like snow, and it was like, why are you disappointed as winter? Snow falling down, down, down. And they took it and they're like, oh my God, this kid is so messed up. And they like called my parents, and it was really bad. I had a soul, and I was in 3rd grade, and I didn't know what to do with it. And that's how I got into writing. I was like, gotta put these things on paper. I love studying English because I think it is like studying philosophy or psych, but there's no rules. And nobody tells you what to do, and you just read stuff, and they're like, this is what's up with the human condition, and this is what I do when I grieve. But they say it in weird ways, and you're like, wow, that's a super accurate representation, but also, like, I didn't have to care about, like, the margins of my paper. Sometimes you do, but not really. English teachers are like, turn it in whenever it's going to be the best. I feel like studying English is a selfish love, or just sort of like a little treat that I get to do. I write because it helps me process what's happening, because so many things happen to us and we're like, what the heck do I do? And then I feel like if you get it out on paper and you like attach a strange metaphor to it, you're like, that makes like a little bit more sense to me, and I can move on with my day. And it's a nice like footprint of what has happened to you. I hope as a writer to like find personal success in like every medium that I can. So I hope to like write a play and a screenplay and like maybe a novel, probably not, and like a series of poetry and like some other, or like a stream of consciousness essay.
I'm a biopsych major, women's gender and sexuality studies minor, and I'm in this master's in public health program. So it's a lot of things that kind of converge into something that is like pretty ephemeral and like doesn't make a lot of sense, which is beautiful, and I love it. Like in high school, I was like, oh, I like biology, that sounds really smart. And like actually really did like it, but it was like, that just seems like something I should do with my life, because like that's what people do. Hence the bio part of this track. But then I was like, wait, I can't work in a lab and like not be with people, because if I'm not with people, I'll shrivel and like won't be okay. So then hence the like public health part of this, and like actually like talking and working with people. And then like through my like women's gender and sexuality studies courses, I've like learned more about like feminist research practices, just like this whole project, and like doing interviews that are like a collaborative thing, and like working with real people to like make real change. And I feel like with my like biopsych background of like behavioral neuroscience, it like gives me a really, really good like foundation to like actually support people, but like also kind of have an in with like the science community, so I can like rally them on my side if I need them, which I will, for like validation.
I love the Constitution. I have a pocketbook Constitution that I carry in my backpack. I keep it with me all the time. Because you never know. You never know when it's going to come up in conversation and be like, oh, really? And just pull it out. I really got into constitutional law when we were going through like the different portions of the Constitution and like different amendments. I love the Constitution because it's lasted this long, which is crazy when you think about it. And it's still doing its job. I mean, sure, we're having a lot of debates over like how certain amendments need to be read and everything, but like the Constitution as a whole is still like this huge governing body, and it's going to remain that way as far as we can tell for decades, if not centuries more to come. Going into constitutional law, my biggest goal is actually like I want to be a senator, but like the main reason I want to be a senator is because I feel like they all don't really have a good grasp of what the Constitution is. Like, you have to know the law to make the law.
When I was a kid, I always knew that I wanted to help people in some way, shape, or form. And then in 7th grade, I completely blew out my ACL in my knee. And that's the thing that connects the top part of your leg to the bottom part of your leg. So my whole leg was flopping around everywhere unless I had a brace on it. And so I had to get complete reconstruction surgery for it. And what they did is they clipped out a part of my hamstring and then screwed the hamstring into the top bone and the bottom bone, so that acts as a new ACL. And I was just really mad that I had these 2 giant metal screws in my knees. So then I started looking more into tissue engineering, and then I found out more about biomedical engineering. And then just from there, I just kept looking more and more into it, and the field is completely fascinating. So I thought, why not try to pursue this? When it clicked that I wanted to be an engineer was definitely the moment, or the couple weeks after I had that surgery. Because originally I thought maybe I'll want to be a physical therapist or a doctor, but doctors, that's so much schooling. It's just so much school. Like, props to those people. Like, they're doing great things with their life, but I couldn't do that. So I think it was mainly I would still be able to help people, but then be able to pursue my own passions. And it's just so fun to build things because you get to design whatever you want. Say, if you want to research in something in biology, you have to find something new. Whereas if you're in bioengineering or biomedical engineering, you take what's already known and you manipulate it. It's more like a set of Legos. Like, you have all of these different pieces and you can build whatever you want with it.
I took these 2 classes my freshman year. They were on history of American women. So I started out college being a pre-med. I found myself enjoying like my history classes a lot more than any of my science classes. My sophomore year, it came between like either I was going to study for tests or I was going to read my books, and I decided to just read my books. Yeah, my experience with learning about women's history has been kind of hard. It was like there was all these like middle class white women who were struggling with trying to find meaning to their lives, and then there's all these like black women who are struggling to like be alive, be a person. I want to be a professor, I think, because I see like the professors that I have right now, and most of them have been women, and they're just so cool, and they just kind of exert this confidence in their field, and they know what they're talking about, and it's like they get into the classroom and I feel like nobody can tell them wrong because they know their shit. And that's kind of what I want to feel. I want to be sort of an expert at something.
So my passion for environmentalism started, I think, about when I was 6 or 7. I remember going on a walk with my mom through a park, and we were passing by a parking lot, and there was a sticker, a bumper sticker on the car, and it said "Save the Whales." And I was like, "Mom, what's wrong with the whales?" And so she told me, and I got really upset that people were harming these creatures in that way. So I went home and I had a lemonade stand, and I raised, I have no idea how much money, probably not a lot at all, but I gave it to my mom and told her to donate it to Save the Whales. Environmentalism is so much more than a science. But it also branches out into all these different fields. I've taken environmental courses within the fields of like economics, anthropology, literature. I have met people here who are also really, really concerned with the environment and really concerned with what we can do to protect it. And I've learned so much about what I can do and what the steps are that I can take to reduce my own environmental impact. I was a vegetarian senior year of high school, but since coming here, I've met one of my suite mates actually as a vegan, and my first year she showed me all these different ways that being vegan can help the environment, so I've been a vegan for a while now. My roommate showed me how drying your clothes can have a big impact, and so we in our room have a clothesline, and we have drying racks, and we alternate back and forth between who gets to do the laundry because we hang all of our clothes dry them. I restrict myself to only buying things from thrift stores, and it's actually like expanded my fashion sense in a fun way as well. I'm just much more conscious. Like every single action I take, I think about how it's going to affect the environment.
Well, this past summer I was working as a research intern at a laboratory, and I was sitting there, and there was a lot of downtime because we were doing a lot of experiments that required waiting. So in the downtime, I was always like writing scripts or like doing things for filmmaking groups on campus, just doing that. And I would get mad every single time someone interrupted me to do an experiment or something. So I was like, oh, well, clearly something's wrong because I think people asking me to do my job is interrupting my real work. I knew I wanted to kind of join filmmaking groups on campus. I directed a short film almost immediately. It was really fun. I had a great time doing that. I got my experience like actually being on sets first, and then kind of going back later and fine-tuning those skills and seeing what I was doing wrong, what I was doing right. I love listening to people's stories, and I think it's so important to realize what everyone's going through. It's hard to, we get so caught up like just in society with like arguing, sides or just hating people without, just because they have this label ascribed to them. And I think that, we'd be a lot better off if everyone just started listening to each other more and respecting each other and just talking about, what people have actually experienced and things like that. I just think we'd learn a lot more listening than arguing. I think good listening isn't thinking about what you're going to say next. Good listening is taking what you're actually listening to and thinking about it, not just thinking about it in the moment, but thinking about it and applying it, what you've learned to like your, how you treat people or just how you treat yourself, just in everyday life. I think good listening is active listening, and it's not just sitting there, hearing it. I wrote this script recently that was kind of, it would be definitely hard to do. I definitely do not have the money to do it. But it's a short film, so it's really short. But it was kind of me getting through this difficult relationship I have with my father. That was like the direction it went in, even though I didn't really plan it that way. And so it's definitely this script that, like, if I had unlimited resources, I would definitely love to bring to life. But yeah, I think that one was really important and therapeutic for me to write. Yeah, I like telling stories that often, are me working through my own problems and doing it through my art. So I love that about film. I would tell any aspiring filmmaker that your vision and your point of view, your perspective, is important. I think, the great thing about filmmaking is that you're able to, portray events through your eyes, through your lens. And I think that's wonderful. And don't be afraid to tell the stories that you want to tell, because some of them are hard to tell, but they're important. So yeah, don't be afraid. Just be bold and don't be afraid of opportunities. As a woman you know, you have so many loud male voices, you know, in the room, and just don't be afraid of using your own voice.